Hi, and welcome to the Getting Grounded with Data podcast. I'm Patty Brownsword, co-owner of Grounded with Data, and this is Dr. Jack Slingleft, the other co-owner of Grounded with Data. We're going to be doing these podcasts where we get to show you a little bit about how nerdy we are.
Well, hello, I'm Jack. As Patty said, we're nerds, but not only are we nerds, we own it. Our purpose here is to share our nerd wisdom with others. And
yeah, we do plan on making this up as we go along, right? And we hope that it helps make your days brighter and a little easier. So first, before we dive in, Jack is going to give you a little bit of an overview of what this episode is going to be about. We're titling it Data Science 100.
Welcome to Data Science 100. We're going to talk a little bit about what data literacy is and how it's actually a journey. And we have an assessment that we'll show you at the end of this video. But today we're going to talk a little bit about it. And what we've realized over the course of our business together is that a lot of clients really want help beyond just understanding their immediate data needs. They truly want to understand what data means beyond what the projects we work with our clients on. So it's not necessarily interpreting a single set of data for a client, but actually positioning them for success on how to interpret data elsewhere. So here's kind of a scary truth is according to Axoy in 2013, about one half of the organizations actually have a data scientist on staff, which means half of the organizations you will encounter do not, which makes data literacy for those that do not have a data analyst on staff even more challenging. So really, how do we define data literacy? I mean, there's a really complex definition, but let's just say for now, data literacy means having the skills and the attitude to use data actively and creatively. Typically, you don't need to have an advanced degree in mathematics to understand what data is or what data are. Mostly it's just a matter of comparison. You're just going to be looking for a greater or less than relationship and whether, or is there a gap in something. Data literacy is really recognizing what reliable data are through the noise. It's really just, being able to first and foremost, find reliable data or create it, and then transform it into a meaningful story, something that really fits your needs. No matter how simple or complex the data is, it all starts from understanding what is good data versus what is bad data. What's good information, what's bad information.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I presented at an event that was a lot of lady business leaders. And the one thing that I learned about them in math is that some of them love it, but most kind of just tolerate it. They think that in order to do math and do metrics and KPIs and all these things, they need to be math geniuses. And math is a four-letter word to them sometimes because that's just not kind of how they were brought up. But the sad thing is that we found that young women particularly have been shown in studies to receive different levels of teacher engagement in middle school compared to their male counterparts. And I heard that through stories that they gave about how they were comfortable with math or not comfortable with math. And many women are socialized into thinking that math is not at all important. And so that was just so incredible to me that it was so clear that there was that distinction. And so what we are trying to do as leaders in the data space is to make everyone really comfortable with it. But sometimes with that comfortability, we have to be very mindful of the language we use, don't we, Jack?
Yes, I used a bad language word. Yes, I have to admit, I've been R-square ashamed. I hauled it out in a meeting and I really shouldn't have, but I was very excited. I wanted to share, I had a great thought on how we could actually solve the client's problem. And yeah, that wasn't the right word. So, but
their eyes kind of glazed over.
A little bit of drool, yeah. Mm-hmm. But, thinking about your point, Patty, about how women in particular have been socialized into math, to give you kind of a personal example, my sister, my older sister, she was a teenager at the time and I was maybe 10-ish. And we had a debate over the importance of algebra in a person's life. And she was adamant and swore up and down that she would never, ever need to use algebra. And I was about 10, so I thought about it. I'm like, okay, I got an idea. I said, well, let's make some cookies together. And I said, we're going to need about 3 batches for the whole family. And she goes, oh, yeah, so I'll have to triple the batch. And I go, you mean 3X? Mm-hmm. And
Uh-huh.
so while I educated her on math, she educated me on grammar. And I didn't know those words could be used in generic form. I'm just saying. So moving on.
Yeah. So, with that, Jack and I are very careful about understanding where our clients and friends are in their data literacy journey. We tend to subscribe to what we call crawl, walk, run, which we've also noticed others are subscribing to as well. But we've used it first. We can prove it. But we know that working with people who want to do more with their data, they know they need more, but sometimes they need to just have some starter metrics that will help them get comfortable with tracking their data in business, whether it's a service or a product, or even some metrics to manage as a team, and not like the heavy math R squared regression analysis, customer journey, life cycle, all the big stuff. And that's great, but that is much farther into the farther walk and run, or as sometimes we say to our clients, jetpack. But that's crawl. And so, we do have starter metrics that help them out.
Yeah. I think the key is to identify really the meaningful need and to measure it in an appropriate way. And maybe the best starting spot is to be curious and have a question that you'd like to know. So in the crawl stage, a basic question, and then from there you can build it to become more complex as you're entering the walk stage. For example, if you're a new pet store owner, you might want to know how many customers are there per hour. That's a simple metric to capture. You count. You might want to know sales per hour, which you can, again, look at the cash register and when the registers were taken over the course of an hour. But when you take it together, you can actually put that into a useful story, which you can get an average sales per hour per customer per hour. Yeah. And so it's really a starting point is to figure out what you need in an easy way to measure it, or where is a good secondary source of data.
Sure. And another thing that we like to assess, with our clients is understanding where they are at interpreting data. And so, that means, are they able to read graphs, tables, look at the list of data, really understand the meaning? I got my start really with the concept of storytelling with data through my experience at the AAA National Office when I was in the business intelligence group. That's really where I really dove into visualizations and telling stories for how, like, for example, like tows or repair shops, the whole process all the way through to, finishing the conversions and everything that happened in between. And so using that in dashboards and reports and conversing just through talking to someone, I had to learn kind of how to express all of that. And so I use that information to help translate that data to our clients, depending on where they are in their data literacy journey.
Yeah, and that's an important point, is how you actually enter that journey. For me, it's something I really always have done. I mean, even thinking back to the cookie example, but anymore, I kind of look at it like the question is, how do the data fit together? And I try to tell the story through models or connecting the pieces together in a way that is easy for most people to understand and to tell a larger story from a couple pieces of information. For example, we've been working a lot with Gen Z and trying to understand how they're different. And I will say Gen Z, bless their hearts. We realized that Gen Z was different in a lot of ways, but at the time when we first started looking into them, there wasn't a lot of research to get on the behaviors and attitudes of Gen Z. There was some, but it was disjointed. So what we had to do is take a bunch of different pieces of information to tell their story. And as a result, again, I'm going to say it, bless their hearts, we were able to figure out how Gen Z was different in the way they communicate. And that helped to actually inform a substance abuse messaging strategy, that once we realized that they are different in the way they communicate and the way they interact with the world around them, we were able to work out a messaging model that I think will actually increase our probability of getting those messages to them.
So I think this is an important thing to really pull out and amplify is that data is information. So where I learned a lot with the numbers, as you did as well, data is also how it fits together as a puzzle. So you do think a lot in models, and I think a lot in, you know, some metrics and things, but you're getting me to think more in that model puzzle piece, you know, how things kind of flow through together. And I think that's important because it's not just numbers, it's pieces of information sometimes. So it can be qualitative, but how does all of that link and sync? And so that's something that we can do really well. So being grounded in data isn't just necessarily what are your metrics, but also what are all of the insights telling you and how does it all fit together? So I think that's pretty cool. So yeah.
That's a great story. That's a great point, Patty, that you made, that, you know, you have your KPIs, and the KPIs are brilliant. We love them. And in my world, we used to call them KRAs, key result areas, key result times, key result, blah, 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 on and on. But that's a part of the model that can actually be placed. And so you can take qualitative information and place it with quantitative information, such as the KPIs. But at the end of the day, you kind of want to think about what you may not know, what you don't know, but you want to be able to tell a story about it. And so you start thinking about what you might need and how it all will eventually fit together. But it's okay if you don't have a very clear picture at the start. Just start. As long as it's logical and usable, reliable information, you can tell a story from it. So if we go back to our pet store example, you can, if you wanted to find out more about like how many people or what type of pets do people have, well, how would you learn that? Well, you can ask them. That's a very easy way and very reliable way. When they're at the cash register, for example, hey, what kind of pet do you have? And they'll tell you. You write it down, or what pets. Or you can look at, for example, the type of purchases people are making at your pet store. What type of food are they buying? What type of products are they buying? Cats, dogs, birds, iguanas, whatever. But, you know, another way is that some people frequently bring their pets into the pet stores. So the point is that whatever you're doing, there's all different types of information that you can gather. But be curious about it. If you start with the question, what kind of pets do people have? Well, open your eyes. People are bringing them into your store. Look at your sales receipts or ask them.
And then if you know, start keeping track of something over here in one database, and you have your sales database in another place, and you have some other information somewhere else, and you're using a Google form for something else, and you got all these things. You know, sometimes we work with our strategic partners on data services, Parmal and Hatal. They help us stitch all that together to then be able to craft those insights. So thinking, well, you know, I don't have a field in my CRM to be able to track this, and I don't have, and I'm just cheaping somewhere else. These are things, don't worry about it. You know, if you can collect it, then we'll figure out how to stitch it together, and we'll figure out processes in place to get that done. Another thing is, you know, if you don't have it, maybe we can help you figure out where to get it.
All great points. And, you know, you bring up a good point about our partners with Hethel and Paramount. Just that, you know, there are so many legacy systems in different organizations. So my pet store example, well, the new pet owner bought it from another pet owner who might have had a data system, who bought it from another pet owner who might have had another data system. And all of those are not necessarily talking because everybody had a new idea. And that's where our partners will come in and help us to stitch it together into one continuous story.
So another thing with understanding where our clients are with their figuring out how to collect data, you know, it's also that process for collecting the raw data and organizing it so it can be transformed in some way. And so we just wanted to give a couple of examples of some things that we've done that help collect data. And so, Jack, you had mentioned you wanted to talk quickly about like the difference between collecting qualitative and qualitative and what kind of process that was.
Qualitative research is fun. Okay, you can do this in a couple different ways. Now, what qualitative research is really you're casting a narrative. And we talked a little bit earlier about Gen Z and having to take different academic pieces of information and put them together to kind of show a profile. Well, that's a form of qualitative information where we're taking information that's more of a story and putting it together to tell another story. Now, qualitative can also be quantitative. We're working on a project right now where we are looking for resources. But we found qualitatively, we found all kinds of different types of resources. Now we can actually do a count on what we found and actually make qualitative look quantitative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the idea, the approach you're taking about like per capita. In one area that is like a known, well built out system, what is the per capita for those services and resources? So we look somewhere else and say, well, they do have those resources, but per capita they're lacking or they're over indexing. And so you can take that information and actually make decisions quantitatively about that, which is so very interesting.
Exactly.
But that's why we work well together, because this whole project, you're managing all of that. Like the way I was raised with data and research is I love it, but it's always been given to me. And then I can make good decisions with it and make stories from it and stitch it all together. But you love that hunt, and our team loves the hunt. And that it's so incredible. I mean, you love the whole process, and we've done our Colby assessments to know where we peter out towards the end. But in terms of like how we want to dig for information and learn it, you love to hunt, and I would much prefer it to be delivered to me. Yeah. But you also like not just hunting for third-party stuff, but that kind of collection things. You have so much experience with surveys and focus groups. Can you talk about that for a second?
Oh, absolutely. Well, surveys, I've been doing surveys back, gosh, I hate to say it, I'm what they call chronologically gifted at this point. But I've been doing survey research from back in the 90s at the University of Akron. And basically, my mentor actually said it best. Research is a game of curiosity. It's meant to be fun. So when you're developing a questionnaire, I tend to overwrite a questionnaire because I'm so curious about many different things. And then we boil it down. I know, Patty, that gets me into trouble. But
been there, done that. Yeah, boil it down.
But it's a game of curiosity. Now, throughout my career, I've worked with some high profile clients and really got to experiment with a lot of different ways and see how it all comes to life and actually be able to make predictive models from of the research that we did. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. But recently, Patty and I have had the opportunity of doing some more focus groups. Now, I've done these things throughout my career, but focus groups in this world is a little bit different, doing them virtually. And so there's some lessons learned. But at the end of the day, we're going back into the qualitative realm where we're going to tell a story based on what other people are telling us. And we get to stitch it together. And it's really kind of curious when you're looking at somebody in person. It's a lot easier to actually pick up on micro expressions and whatnot than it is virtually. Mm-hmm. But again, what did Patty call me? Classically trained. So the digital medium is a little bit different. It's a lesson learned, but you can still gather a lot of great information. So it's been a great opportunity. And we actually have another focus group scheduled here next month. So I'm looking forward to doing that. That one's going to be in person. So
yes. Yeah. Fingers crossed on that one for sure. For in person. We really want it in person. So the last piece of what we how we design ourselves for clients whether they're in the crawl, walk, or run stage is how data is presented to them. And is it, how is it visualized and presented as the results based on the analysis and in a targeted manner to a tailored audience. And so sometimes we'll go, depending on who's in the room is what Jack is allowed to use in terms of saying regression analysis and structural equation model versus this would be a pretty story, but so, didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on that, Jack.
Yeah, true. Well, it's the old adage, you have to basically play to the audience, you play to the crowd. And what I like to do is structure my reports in a way that it is built for a larger audience. But at the end of the day, you do need a very concise summary for the executives that's portable. Mm-hmm. So the one story that they can pick up and take to somebody else, we like to distill whatever we do down to that, but we still have to have kind of the myopic view of the individual pieces within the story. But storytelling really with numbers is interesting because you get to do it with pictures, but again, it comes down to the basics where you're really, even if you're expressing something as a picture, you're really just showing greater than or less than. And it might be a number, but that's pretty easy to interpret for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's, as all things, it's a journey. So start simple and build to your next question.
Mm-hmm.
Build it so it's easier to understand for the next person in line.
Yeah, and going back to the Gen Z presentations we did, we worked with our marketing partner, CTS agency, and the general idea is that we were going to give them all of this information so that they could utilize it for messaging strategies for the campaign. So we piecemealed it a little bit for a couple of times to make sure they were kind of picking up what we were throwing down. And then we went, blah, here is all of it. And here is a mega trends and all of the things in pieces. And it is elaborate. And they ate it up because they're highly intelligent. But when they were like, can you present something to the client, but not that? Because that's a lot. And we were like, oh no, yes, we know, not all of it. And so we've made a pared down version, which that was, wildly received, very well by the client themselves. And we presented actually to a couple of their partners and stakeholders too. But that was something that we were really proud of, about making something that was usable for the right audiences. One was to create messaging strategy, and the other was just to learn more about Gen Z and their habits and why they are kind of the way they are.
Yeah, that was fun though, I will admit. So what are our takeaways, Patty? First and foremost is that really data literacy is a journey. So it's crawl, walk, and run. So take what you need as the basics and then build it out, starting with curiosity. And really what data literacy means is being able to tell what is reliable data, or know where to get reliable data from, and how to be able to tell a story from it. And again, it comes down to the basics. Is this number greater or less than this number? And you can present it visually or as just a number. Mm-hmm. So think about where you want to be and then chart a course towards it. Start with something simple like our pet store example, mm-hmm. customers per hour. Great. Start measuring that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think...
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No. I'm just so excited to announce that we have our own data journey assessment that I wanted you to remember to mention it. So if you're watching the video, the QR code will be popping up somewhere magically, thanks to Dr. Jack and his garage band skills or whatever it's called. And we'll put it in the show notes of a link to it. But if you want to know, are you at the crawl? Are you at the walk? Are you at the run stage? Where are you? Then you can go ahead and take that assessment. But then another thing you can do is start thinking and looking at the different software that you're using and map out where you are with using it. Are you using it in first gear? Are you using it in second gear, third gear? Is it, did you buy the Maserati of CRMs and you haven't taken it out of the garage? What are you doing? Make sure you're using it for yourself. So those are some of the other takeaways that I wanted to chime in because got me excited about announcing the assessment. So.
Oh, you never need to apologize about being excited about the we're nerds and we own it.
Yes. So we're not exactly sure how long this interview was because we've had a lot of many takes in the beginning and I had to get Jack really comfortable with chatting while the recording button was on. So I feel like I've done a pretty good job with that. Sweaty palms. So we shall see how long this is and try to adjust accordingly as we go. But we'd love your feedback on if you enjoyed Data Science 100, because there will be eventually a Data Science 101, 102, 103, 104, and we'll keep going. So we'd love your feedback. Let us know if there's anything you would like to know about, anything that we might know about. From data science to martial arts, just hit us up. Let us know what you'd like to know. So that's all for now. Thank you for getting through this entire episode of Getting Grounded with Data. Thank you and have a great day.